Hey, I have a wonderful conversation for us today. This is my friend Andrea, and she thinks about business in a way that I love, and it's different. And it's a conversation I think that is really important to have. So, Andrea, share a little bit about who you are and what you care about.
Yeah, let's start a little bit about what I care about. I've always loved business my whole life. That's where my journey started. And what's intriguing is a number of years ago, started exploring metaphysics, let's call it that. And I thought, how could one possibly explore metaphysics and love business all at the same time? And what happened was an understanding that they weren't meant to be separate. And so that's what I care about when I talk about love and business. You muted yourself there, love. So we got to get back because I can see those lips. Alrighty.
So, what does it mean
Yep.
to run a business from love? The big question.
Yep. So if you look at love, not the way we typically define it, it really is a resonance, like a vibration, an energy. And everything is vibration, everything's energy. But love has this attractive energy. It's the energy of creation, how we even came to this planet. And so, what that means when you talk about business is, can you actually create an organization? It too has a resonance that's not founded in fear, scarcity, lack, and poverty, but actually founded on this deeper resonance of love of self, but also love of humanity.
People, I think, on one level want that, and yet they wind up operating on an entirely different channel.
Oh, I get that. I should put my hands up.
And how do we justify that? Because if you say that to somebody, I would say everybody, or most everybody, is going to say that they agree with that and
Right.
that that's what they want. And they might even say that they do that. And yet, a lot of times you and I know that that's not necessarily where the actual action winds up being. So tell us, how can we do that more?
No, that's a really great question. It makes total sense. I think, first off, setting the intention is what matters, and that's not going to call everyone, right? So even just cognitively acknowledging that that's where we wish to create from is a step, right, in the right direction. Because, if you don't look back at some really old stuff from 10 years ago, I might have said I was creating a business from love, but was I, right? So the intention was always there, but the patterns, the programming, the history, right, of business has been anything but that, especially if you have a business degree. like we're so trained on how business should be. I mean, I'm a former accountant. We actually defined profit engineering, right? So there's a lot of mechanics and lessons and things we've learned that are the opposite of how we're running in the moment. And I think the part to say is that's okay. Like, it's absolutely understandable. But I think is there an inner desire to shift and change, then there is a calling to start beginning in that direction.
So something you just said, triggered something over here. I've been in a lot of trainings and a lot of programs just in this last year alone. And a lot of those experts were telling me that I needed to do things that to me didn't feel right. And it certainly wasn't putting me in a place of more love. but that's how business is taught.
Very much so.
So,
And it's intriguing, right, to watch how experts, and I'm not knocking that, okay, please. I do feel on some level their hearts are in the right place, meaning they are trying to assist people in doing business in a great way. It's just the anchor of that story needs to change.
so how do we do that?
I think you brought the best piece into the room. So I actually want to thank you for that. You said to me today and in our other call that you had an inner resonance or an inner knowing that something was off when somebody told you. So I think it doesn't mean that we don't listen to others' perspectives or thoughts, even what's coming out of my mouth, right? But trust our inner knowing when something's off and don't follow it because somebody else is telling you. Doesn't mean there aren't flavors of things that people who have history of knowing don't have something to offer us, but take it, with a grain of salt and tune in to your own heart and knowing.
I also find that it changes,
Very much so.
and allowing myself to follow those, directions that I seem to want to go and make changes. So, I mean, just like this past week, I made a decision first that with all the stuff I have going on that I am going to do less on social media. But there's a part of me that also says, oh, I need to do this. And this morning I came up with an awesome solution.
Which
to,
was?
well, to have the very part-time VA that I have had for a while, but I haven't had much work for lately, to have that person do it. Because there's a language issue. And so having him write stuff for me in the past wasn't working very well because he's not a native English speaker. But since I do some of this stuff with AI now, it's like, oh, hey, solution. Take something off my plate, give it to someone who would actually really appreciate the work, the opportunity to do the work, and get as much out there as I decide I want to have, which is less than I was trying to make myself do before. So it's like navigating the path and flowing with it.
Very much so.
Instead of resisting.
Yeah, and I think you brought a key point in there, is to give ourselves more space, which almost goes against the grain of what we've been taught to do, and allow the flow, you could say, of the energy or the universe or whatever that is for your listeners, but allow that guidance to come in, which ties to inner knowing of what next step of action we need to take, so that the universe is now orchestrating with us and we're not forcing her in a direction that really isn't needed.
I'm going to bring another aspect into our conversation here. How do we fit competition into this? Because right now we are in a very competitive business environment. There's so many people out there doing very similar things. And it's just like, tell us a little bit of wisdom that you have and experience that you have about dealing with that.
Competitive is an interesting word, and I get it. But to me, competitive comes from, you could say, the mindset, which I too have participated in. No judgment. That there isn't enough for everyone. And so competitive to me is, if that's what's aligning right within us, and I understand that, then that means we're still coming from fear, scarcity, lack, or loss. In other words, not understanding from the heart that there is enough for everyone. And that's a subtle, but not so subtle shift in the energy of which we create our business. And people feel it, folks. Like I'm telling you now, and those spidey senses we spoke to will know that. And that's the shift. I feel like in the next 10 easy years is that there's this almost welcoming for people to be able to tune in when they're dealing with somebody that is actually coming from love, will be my language, or integrity or an alignment, because people have experienced much of the other.
So, audience out there, you who may be watching now or in the future, are these things that you have even thought about? And what actions might you take? What perspectives might you choose to come from in your business so that it's really coming from more of a place of love and less fear, less competition? So, Andrea, what action steps would you recommend for people that they might take that could help them get more on this path of love?
I think there's a few things. You brought the primary important one into the room already. Is every decision or action you take when you're creating your business or doing business from love, trust your inner knowing, trust your heart. Don't let your head and what other tells you get in the way. And the other thing is just take a pause. Take a pause to examine how you're operating. And if something feels out of alignment for you, throw it in the trash, let it go, and try something else that works for you.
I know that I have bought into programs, participated in programs, and even while I was doing it, it was miserable. But I felt like attached to actually going through and completing it, and then attached to continuing after. And then I realized, like, you know what? I just don't like doing this, and dropped the whole thing, like all of it. There are other things where sometimes I really feel like it is in alignment, but it still feels not quite right. And maybe I can make a small adjustment and have it fit better. And sometimes maybe there's healing that I know that I need to do that then has something fit more. I know for me, something that commonly is going on for me is I don't know how to do something. If I decide I actually do really want to do it, there's a benefit to doing it, getting through the healing part so that it really can be more actually in alignment is beneficial. So it's like there's so many different ways that this can look.
100%. You know, the thing that I now look back on, right? In the last 13 years specifically, when I was introduced to entrepreneurship, was I've had a deep recognition how that journey has also helped me evolve. That's why I called this organization Love Evolution, because there is no one way back to finding the love that we are and love in business.
So do you have a final message that you want to leave our audience?
Yeah, I think if I could call anything to anyone that's listening today, no matter what you do, whether it be in your personal life or your business, just bring more love to self, and then more love to others while you're doing it.
And let people know how they can connect with you if they want to engage in conversation or just, see what's going on in your world.
Tune in. Easiest way would be my site, loveevolution.ca. There's a number of ways and opportunities in there to connect or just tune in and listen a little longer.
Thank you. So, you out there in the audience, think about this. Let this thought process roll around in the back of your mind for a little bit and evaluate day by day, action by action, and notice when something comes up on your to-do list or in an activity or whatever, in a class. I was like, oh, you know, maybe I need to adjust, and allow yourself that grace to shift the patterns, shift the things that you've been doing so that you really feel like you're more in alignment with yourself and with loving yourself and loving your business, because that's really what it's all about. Thank you.
Thank you, love.
Thank you, Andrea.